You're listening to the Mike on the Right podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to the most action-packed, common sense, conservative podcast out there, the Mike on the Right program. I am your host, Mike Neal. This is episode 13, July 28th, 2025, and we are broadcasting, as usual, from the heart of the heartland, Central Indiana, the crossroads of America, the great Hoosier State. Thank you so much for continuing to listen and support. I cannot do this without you. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, 5-star ratings. You are the ones that make this work. You are the ones that can help me grow this show. And thank you to each and every one of you who have done all those things. And if you haven't done it and you feel so inclined, please do. Thank you so much. We got a lot to get to today, as usual, but real quick, always something. I want to celebrate a huge win for the state of Indiana under the leadership of Senators Jim Banks and others, Governor Braun. The United States Department of Agriculture is moving one of its 5 hubs to the great Hoosier State, the state of Indiana, taking many of the agriculture decisions out of D.C., where there isn't any farmland, where there's too many bureaucrats, and putting it into the heartland, where logical decisions can be made. It's right here where agriculture thrives in Middle America. There's 5 of them. They're kind of spread out across the nation, but Indianapolis is a great hub for agriculture. So kudos to all those who were involved. This is great to start decentralizing certain things out of Washington. There's some things that certainly make sense in D.C. Agriculture, not even close to one of them. So big win for Indiana. Super excited for that. Let's get to what we have in this episode. We have a lot to do. There's a lot of controversy right at the beginning. Where are the Epstein Files? What are they? Why they must be released, and how they should be released. We're going to talk about that right at the top. Not holding on to anything for you today. Then we're going to move on to how President Trump is winning the war on trade. How's he doing it? What does it mean for your pocketbook, your investments, and the overall economy, and more? And the last item is a continuation of last week's discussion on energy, and we're going to add in a new piece that I left out intentionally to discuss today, and that is how nuclear energy fits into the conversation and how Indiana is leading the way. We're going to talk about safety and all the things that have to go with that. Let's get right to the first topic. Well, the most controversial one I'll talk about probably in a long time are the Epstein Files. What is it? Who's in it? And does the public have a right to know? If you haven't heard about the current debate about Jeffrey Epstein and the files and the client list and all the things and whether or not he killed himself or not, if you haven't heard about it, you must be living under a rock, because currently it is at the top of every news cycle in America and in many places around the world. What I want to do is a brief history of the timeline to refresh your memory so that we can discuss what is happening in real time, and I can give you my commentary and opinion on the matter. First, a brief history without getting too much into the weeds. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier and socialite who had mysterious sources of income. He cultivated connections with powerful figures across politics, business, academia, royalty. We're talking Clinton, Trump, Prince Andrew, Bill Gates. The list is wide. He's got pictures with everybody. He was a socialite, to be sure. He owned a lot of private properties, like this little St. James Island, a.k.a. Epstein Island, that has been in the news a lot. He had a place in New Mexico, a ranch. He had a townhome in New York City. He had a lot of access to a lot of things, a lot of places. And I want to be clear, on the top, he ran a very sick and wrong operation involving the exploitation of young women. And anyone that's associated with that and that operation deserved to go down. His criminal background: in 2008, he pleaded guilty in the state of Florida. A lot of people actually don't know this piece, to soliciting a minor for prostitution. He received a very controversial sweetheart deal. It was a 13-month sentence and work release. He kind of got away with the first round of it a long time ago. And then 11 years later, he was rearrested on federal charges. I believe that was in 2019. He was arrested on new federal charges of sex trafficking minors. The indictment included the use of his properties to exploit underage girls, some allegedly trafficked to powerful associates. And in August in 2019, he died in custody. He was found in a Manhattan jail cell, was ruled suicide, but circumstances were suspicious. The cameras malfunctioned. The video that the government provided to the courts was edited using Adobe. There was metadata in the back that shows that it had been cut. The guards failed to check on him. And the high-profile detainee was not on suicide watch. And apparently, there is a client list that may, or as people are starting to contend now, may not exist, and whether or not it will or will not be released. And we're going to get to that shortly. I want to talk about that in the commentary portion because I feel very strongly about it, but I want to get ahead of myself. Ghislaine Maxwell trial then happened. So this is what happened after he died. There was a trial in 2021 with Miss Maxwell. She was convicted for her role in recruiting and grooming underage girls for Epstein, and she did not, during any of that process, provide any high-profile named individuals. She didn't reveal anybody. But public frustration grew and continues to grow today. Maxwell is in prison, but no one who allegedly used Epstein's services has been charged, not one. And while she was certainly a core piece of this, the ones who are truly getting away with this are those who, and we know there's a bunch of them, went to this island for this sickness, these sick acts. And now there's a public campaign, and there has been for a while, but it's even strengthened again. Where is this client list? There was some names associated with Epstein when people started looking into flight logs, guest lists, photos. Accordingly, it's not currently proof of wrongdoing, but it is questions and evidence that should be looked at. It raises eyebrows. And again, it includes all those names that I provided to you, even folks like Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. I named some of the others. And then there's a lot of documents that have a lot of redactions. Legal documents have been unsealed over time, but they're often heavily redacted, and victim testimony references powerful men, but the names rarely come to light. So what is the current debate? So we've kind of gone through the history. Here's kind of what's happening now. There's renewed attention because there's conservative and independent media that are again pushing for full transparency, but there's also Democrats on the left who are pushing for a release. Now, I think some of that because, there's this new rumor, this new information that Donald Trump may be on that list. So I think there's a little bit more political motive there, but it doesn't matter. It seems like everyone across the spectrum is talking about the release of this list, even though it's their own Democrat, conservative, independent, Republican, whatever, their own may still be on or may be on the list. And there was also some recent court filings in the U.S. Virgin Islands in a lawsuit against J.P. Morgan, which was Epstein's former bank, which brought some new revelations which have kind of stirred a lot of this conversation up. Again, the unconfirmed reports that Donald Trump may appear in these documents recently when they were reviewed or they were scheduled to be unsealed and released. And we all know that Attorney General Pam Bondi told everyone, this list is on my desk, but apparently a story in the Wall Street Journal came out citing unnamed sources, which I can't stand, so I'm not going to give any credence because I don't know if it's true or not. But the story is out there that she told President Trump in May that he was on the list, and that's why the list has been paused for release, allegedly. That was just in the Wall Street Journal. Critics say that this is a hit job timed to trying to cripple Trump. I don't know. That I'm just giving you the facts of what people are saying. I'm trying to give you both sides before I give you my commentary. So, the Wall Street Journal has unnamed sources. We don't know if they're true or not. Of course, Trump is saying, hey, this is a hit job. Take that for what it is. But what supporters are saying, and some folks are saying, is that if he's innocent, release it. If he's guilty, same thing. The truth matters. But there's some confusion around this client list, and there's an important distinction here. There's no definitive document. There's nothing with a title that says Epstein's client list. Hasn't been verified, but the Attorney General said that this similar kind of data is on her desk or some sort of information. And they could be referencing contact lists, personal Rolodexes, guest and flight logs, the different appointments. So we don't know really what's there. I think a lot of people believe it's a client list, but there could be a ton of names on it, and we don't know what they are. And we would know if someone would release it. But what people want is the list. Well, this is what people want, is the list that was used to keep record of the trafficked women and who may have used those services. That's what people think this is. And it could very well be. But again, we won't know till it's released. So those are the facts. I tried to give them as unbiasedly as possible, and now I'm going to tell you what I think, because I hope that's why you're here. I mean, I hope you're here for the facts first, but then I try to give you a detailed explanation from a Christian conservative perspective on these things. Let's clear the fog. Whether or not there's a formal client list, whether it exists or not, the public deserves in this matter full transparency. Doesn't matter who's on it. I don't care. I don't care at all. All victim names should be shielded, but there is no government interest, period. This isn't like something from the Cuban Missile Crisis. This isn't some national security issue. This has no business being shielded by the government. Only the victims' names should be shielded from public record, period. It's not about Trump. It's not about Clinton. It's not about anyone else. This is about the victims and receiving justice, and those people that have been a part of perpetrating this sick act should be exposed. Now, whether that list is that is certainly to be questioned. A lot of people think so. I don't know what the facts say about that, but we should be able to decide as a society for ourselves, which means everything should be released. If there is a list of those who knowingly participated or benefited from Epstein's abuse network, it must be released. This shouldn't be partisan. I had told you that there was conservatives, independents, and Democrats. Now, they may all have different motives. But regardless of the motives, the position is correct. This list should be released. Your first reaction should not be to ask, is my guy on the list? Is my gal on the list? Who's on the list? Doesn't matter. You're missing the point. If your guy is on that list, good. Let the light shine. If he's not, even better. Truth over tribalism. Don't let them manipulate the narrative. The media will focus on the names they want you to hate. That's why all they're talking about today is Trump. And if he is on the list, fair enough. But it's all about those clicks. It's all about those. So I don't trust the media at all on any of this. So I want to push that CNN, MSNBC, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Newsmax, all of them. MSNBC, all of them. Don't care. Release the list. I don't care why. The media is going to focus on what it's going to focus on. But the truth will be known when the list is out there, and we can judge for ourselves as the public and the court of public opinion what that is, and then prosecutors and those alike can do the rest. Justice does not get to be selective, but we must clarify, what is this client list even? Could be a Rolodex, could be booking info. Is it victim testimony? What is it? Are there pictures, video? What is it? Who knows? And until we get the answers, we're fighting shadows that the government and the media, the government is controlling and the media is filtering. And Epstein wasn't a lone wolf. This was absolutely a network. That's why Maxwell was involved. There's probably others. Those people, too, should also have their names come to light. And if this whole thing dies in redactions, then what is the message we are sending to the next group of predators with power? In closing, we don't need another government commission. We need the truth. We need the documents. There is no government interest to holding these. The only government interest and the self-interest is to protect the victims' names. Everything else should be put out there. Name names, show evidence, let the public decide, and let the prosecutors decide. If you're scared of the truth, then you are backing up these people who perpetrated these sick acts. Let's move on. Now, the next item I want to talk about is how President Trump is winning the global trade war. And before I begin, I hope this shows you that I'm an independent thinker. The last segment I gave you and provided you was giving grief to the administration. And now it's time for a little credit in another area. let's set the stage on this trade war. We've been talking about this for a while. We've talked about this on different episodes. But here's a brief issue of the modern trade war before we get into what's happening today and kind of give you an update. Before President Trump, for decades, both parties have allowed the U.S. to be hollowed out by bad trade deals. Part of why President Trump was elected back in 2016, because of years and years and years of Democrats and Republicans breaking their promises to the American people. Manufacturing jobs moved overseas. China manipulated currency and violated international property rights. The European Union slapped us with quiet tariffs while pretending to be allies. Globalism meant America made less and bought more at the cost of jobs, supply chains, leverage, national security, our economy. And then Trump changed the rules. Starting in 2018, Trump used tariffs and reciprocity to pressure China, the EU, and others. Critics certainly call it a trade war, and that's the standardized definition. But President Trump calls it leverage. And the goal is fair trade, not free trade. Fair trade, where America doesn't get the short end of every deal because of who we are. And we don't get taken advantage of as the global superpower, the good guys. And just because we're good, we should take it in the pants. No. Period. So how's he winning? You've all been hearing about tariffs, big bad tariffs, big bad tariffs. People like Michael Hicks, people like Hakeem Jeffrey, all these people who say that tariffs are going to hurt and kill the American economy. And of course, taken to the improper end, tariffs can be bad, just like anything. But everything in moderation is good, can be good. Trump's tariffs aren't about isolation; they're about resetting the playing field. Examples with China, Trump hit them with $360 billion worth of tariffs on Chinese goods. There was this escalation back and forth. But what it prompted companies to do was bring some of this manufacturing back to the United States, or at least divest it from China, which we talked about that several episodes ago. Not everything needs to be made in America, but not everything needs to be made overseas either. Yes, America has turned into a service economy. That doesn't mean that manufacturing can't happen in America, and some of it needs to occur here. And then we've had deal after deal after deal. Prior to the current administration, we replaced NAFTA with the USMCA. That was a big deal. And now we're making some adjustments because we're now seeing, just like any good legislative piece, is sometimes you write legislative piece, law, and then you see some unintended consequences. You do your best to get rid of those early, but now we need to make some edits, and that's what's happening now. We just saw the Japan trade deal was huge for America. We saw the Vietnam deal. Huge for America. We're seeing what's going on in South Korea. We're seeing what's going on in India. We're seeing what's going on in Canada and Mexico. Yeah, the news of courtly over-sensationalized things, as they always do. But at the end of the day, America got a better deal. And in fact, you probably didn't hear this, but in June, the United States had a structural surplus, the first one in a while, a structural surplus where we took in more money than we spent. Now, there's a lot to that, and I don't know that's true for the month of July. I don't know if that's true. I have to look at the data, and of course, July's not over yet at the time of the recording of this episode. But we're starting to see the effects of a lot of this action. That tariffs do make money for the United States. Hopefully, we can start paying off debt, lowering taxes, but that's not the only answer, but it's part of it. So what's happening next? So there's news out there today. I just was reading it in the Wall Street Journal that President Trump is heading to Scotland to meet with European Union and Scottish trade partners to leverage the U.S. economy and to leverage what we have in the energy and tech sector exports to negotiate with the EU. And of course in Scotland too, which is a lot of energy terminals there and things like that. Maybe part of a bilateral mini deal, or maybe even pushing towards a larger deal, forcing the European Union to reduce barriers on American digital, aerospace, and agriculture products. Again, we have been taken advantage of by our friends and our allies, and that's what this is about. And it will all work out in the end. We are seeing everywhere. I just saw a friend of mine post a misnomer because that's what some of them do, especially those that hate Trump, because they don't want to give him credit for anything good. And it was this headline: grocery prices highest ever in 2025. And the chart essentially ends tracking it in October of 24. Then it has some lines afterwards, but no one knows what they mean. And really, it's not much into January and February of 2025 when the president just took over. And you can't expect on day one, you can start taking actions, but a macro economy takes a while to move things. Egg prices have plummeted. I have not seen spikes of groceries in the store. I have not seen any of those things. There is certainly standard inflation, so of course everything's going to inch higher because that's how the system is built. But no. Grocery prices are not spiking at this time. The eggs are way down. I use that as a barometer because that was the thing that we were getting beat over the head with. Egg prices are so high, and they didn't say anything about it under President Biden. We did. And then as soon as Trump took over, oh, look at the prices are even higher under Donald Trump. And that's because what was happening in agriculture and what was the policy with chickens from the USDA and the FDA. And then, of course, the bad economic planning, and that's what led to a lot of this. And Trump came in and changed a lot of those things, and the market recovered, and now eggs are cheaper again, way cheaper again. And they need to go down more, but way cheaper again. So I ain't buying that. So what does this mean for the average American? I just detailed it, right? Price relief. But what these trade deals deal with is, despite media panic, prices have stayed in line with normal inflation. Inflation in the Trump years have averaged, over his two terms, about 1.9% pre-COVID to post-COVID. Now, he's got some more to do. I think I saw maybe 2.7%. It ran a little bit hotter, but there's no big spikes, and I think eventually it's going to come down, and I think the Fed is going to have to deal with some of that. Because I think that in some areas they're abdicating their responsibility to help grow this economy, period. Post-tariff price increases were minimal. Outside the targeted luxuries or niche imports, everything else has stayed relatively stable. And U.S. consumers absorbed tariffs with little noticeable pain. No one is seeing major price spikes, period. Outside of average inflation, for the most part, outside of luxury items. We're seeing jobs. The experts were stunned, as I noted last month, when jobs were way higher than expected. Job growth was way higher than expected. Companies like Apple and Intel and Samsung are investing more in American manufacturing. Construction jobs, factory jobs are growing. We're rising again as a manufacturing piece of our economy. And investments in the market continue. The Trump era trade policy has given clarity to investors. An America First policy brings predictability. Energy exports surged. Domestic manufacturing has rebounded. Retirees and 401k holders saw stability, not volatility. Of course, there was in the market at the beginning, there was a lot of emotion to that, but it is stabilized. We just looked at our numbers for this last week. The S&P hit 5 records in a row. Our portfolio for retirement is better than it's ever been. It's growing by leaps and bounds, and my son's 529 and all those different things. All these things that a bunch of liberals doomed and gloomed in January and February. He's destroying it. And they were posting pictures of the market with all the little red boxes showing how minus it was. That's because it was an emotional response. And now everything is far better than it was already in 6 months under President Trump and under the Republican leadership we have today. So I got to give him credit. I am not a Trump worshiper. I am an independent thinker. I am a Republican and a conservative. But he is winning the war on trade, and it is helping our pocketbooks and investments. We have the leverage in the trade war. We are the number one consumer market. We are the number one economy. Everyone wants access to U.S. buyers. That's the leverage. We dominate in food and energy and innovation. The world needs our agriculture, our natural gas, our AI chips, our biotech. We have the world's reserve currency. This plan is not isolation, it's negotiation, it's leverage. Trade isn't about charity, it's about mutual benefit. And for the first time in decades, America is using its economic muscle the right way. We are not producing weak leadership in America anymore. Trump showed that when you fight for a better deal, you don't start a war, you end the surrender. And we've been surrendering to the global economy like we owe it something. We are the shining light. We are the greatest producer of anything and everything. We are the greatest economy and the most exceptional nation in the world. And we are the most charitable and the most helpful. and the most loving and the most kind. We've done more for the world than anybody else, period, hands down, full stop, not arguing about it. Now, we have a responsibility to help everyone, but we don't get taken advantage of in doing that. Biden tried to quietly keep Trump's tariffs and strategies, and a lot of those things that he added in the first term stayed. And now Trump is going back to build upon that. All of a sudden, it's a problem. But it was all great under President Biden. Wrong. My closing thoughts on this before we get to the last segment, I don't want to run long, is that Trump's trade strategy is not reckless. It is strategic realism. The tariffs didn't tank the economy, as all the experts were saying they would, and all the keyboard warriors said that they would, but they were wrong. The trade war didn't crash prices. In fact, it did the opposite. It made foreign governments take us seriously. If we want secure supply chains, good paying jobs, economic independence, we keep fighting to win. Right now, Trump and America are winning the trade war, and we need to continue that. Last item I have for you today, so we don't run long, is the continuation of last week's conversation on American energy independence and a piece I left out strategically. How nuclear energy fits into the American energy independence movement and how Indiana is leading the way. A quick recap, why energy independence still matters. We talked about in the last episode about America's energy independence and how natural gas and coal and oil and solar and wind and hydrogen all play a role. But that supplements to the grid and technology that aren't ready can't be forced upon the American economy. It will hamper it. But there's one powerful, underused piece to that puzzle that too many people still overlook, and that is nuclear energy. And if we're serious about powering the future without depending on China and Russia and OPEC and all those who may not necessarily be all our friends, then nuclear has to be a part of that strategy, not just a side note. Where nuclear stands today in America, here's kind of the broad strokes. Right now, nuclear power provides about 18 or 19% of America's electricity. It's 1 in every 5 homes and businesses are powered by nuclear in different parts of the country. We have 94 operating reactors at the time of the study that I completed, mostly built between the 1970s and 1990s. So older technology, I'm sure, and I know they have been updated and to be made safe, but they are older reactors. And these plants are zero emission at the point of generation. No carbon, no air pollution. Nuclear is also the most reliable baseload power source. It runs at a 92% capacity factor, better than any of the others. Now, certainly all the others are more available, and so over time the transition is going to take generations probably, but we've got to start somewhere. We've got to start now. But why people were nervous about, and still are nervous about nuclear power, and that's one, because true, there were some things and some things that happened that were bad, that were harmful when we didn't understand it. We didn't have the technology and the safety systems we have today. But now also a lack of education on how it has changed. Everything at some point has. Natural gas was dangerous. And it is certainly dangerous. You have to respect it. But we do way better with it today than it was done a long, long time ago. And so we just have to get better at it and use it. And now most people, 99.9% of people, don't think about anything with natural gas. You had 3 Mile Island. You had Chernobyl. You had Fukushima. There are obviously a ton of these things, and some things were safety issues, some things were outside sources, but we have to get better and smarter, and we have. New reactor designs are safer, smaller, and more efficient. Passive safety systems, they cool themselves without human intervention or electricity, and modern plants are designed to shut down automatically in emergencies. All these things we didn't have with a lot of these failures prior. What's next for nuclear energy? These small modular reactors, or SMRs, are the future. Think of them as little nuclear batteries, factory-built, scalable, safe, and safer by design, faster to deploy, cheaper to maintain, ideal for rural communities, military bases, industrial parks, neighborhoods, what have you. And then, of course, there are some advanced reactors. Companies like TerraPower, which is Bill Gates-backed, X-Energy, NuScale, they're building larger reactors that can use the spent fuel, lower nuclear waste. Some use molten salt or liquid metal as coolants instead of water, which are huge safety advantages. And of course, we have to watch the regulatory process because we need to regulate them properly. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, is speeding up its approval process without hampering or compromising safety. And there is bipartisan support growing in Congress for streamlining nuclear innovation. This is a great way to get to where we want to go over the generations. It's not, again, nuclear isn't 100% the answer. All of the above strategy, as I talked about in the previous episode. But what I'm excited about is Indiana is leading the way. And you may not think, when you think of Indiana, you may not think nuclear. But that's about to change. In 2022, Indiana passed a law enabling small nuclear reactors, or these SMRs, to be used for utility-scale use. That put Indiana ahead of the curve, one of the first Midwestern states to create a pathway for next-generation nuclear. You've got Duke Energy and Purdue University. Purdue is actively studying deployment of these SMRs on its campus to power the university and surrounding communities. It's a test case. This would be one of the first university-led SMR sites in the country, and massive potential for research, training, economic development, and more. Why does it matter? Indiana already has a manufacturing backbone. We are an economic driver for the nation and the world in this state. Nuclear power could power factories and data centers and water treatment and more, reliably and clean. And we have great access to so many resources here that can help with this. It's about job creation, grid reliability, energy security, safe and reliable power, all rolled into one. And there was just a big summit here just recently in Indiana on this very topic. We are pedal to the metal. We are not letting up. Indiana is leading the way in nuclear. And so the final word, it's time to awake the sleeping giant of nuclear to be a part of the overall solution with oil and coal and natural gas and hydrogen and wind and solar and hydroelectric power and all the different things that we need. America doesn't need to choose between any of those. We need to build everything in moderation and in scale and move towards what's best over time. And it's going to take time to build these things. It's going to take time to transition. It's going to take years and decades and generations. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start now. Indiana's starting today. And if we want true energy independence, we can't ignore the power that's already fueling nearly a fifth of the grid quietly and safely. Nuclear is the workhorse that doesn't get the press unless something goes wrong. And it's finally stepping in to a part of the spotlight. And if Indiana has anything to say about it, the future of nuclear will be born in the heart of the heartland. Folks, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you so much. Please like, share, follow, subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating where you listen. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great week.